I had been anticipating this book for so long. I can't believe I read it in just over 5 hours. Find out what I'm talking about in just a moment. Hey everyone, it's Ray and welcome back to my little bookish corner of the world where I talk about all things book, whether that's fantasy, science fiction, horror, or in the case of today's book, historical stunningness. I don't know any other way to say it. I've been looking forward to this book for an absolute age and I really cannot wait to encourage you to read it if it's not already on your TBR pile or your reading radar, and B, just think about it for a moment longer. Today's book is the absolutely fantastic and brand new release, Babylonia by Costanza Casati. I'm not gonna say, I can't sit here in all honesty and say, oh my God, yeah, well, so I'm gonna just talk about it as I would talk to any of my friends about a book I am going to just recommend, because I can't do anything but recommend it. But first of all, before I start in talking about it, let's find out what it's actually about from the author herself. There are whispers of her fame in the land long ago since turned to dust, the queen who rose from nothing and changed everything. Ancient Assyria, 9th century BC, an orphan is raised on the outskirts of a brutal empire. Heir to a tragic prophecy, Semiramis dreams of wielding power and escaping her destiny. Far away, a reluctant prince walks the corridors of his gilded palace in a city built by the gods. Ninus would rather spend his days in books and poetry than conquering the world of men. But when he meets Onus, a broken, beautiful warrior, something awakens in them both. And as they grow into younger men, their friendship deepens into something fiercer still. That is, until Semiramis arrives. A savage love soon erupts between them all, even as a dark threat to the kingdom mounts. For Ninus and Onus, one of them will be called to make a devastating sacrifice. For Semiramis, it will become impossible to distinguish between enemy and friend, and before long, all three will be forced to learn the lesson of the gods. In Babylonia, you must bend the world to your will. What doesn't bend, you break. Doesn't that sound amazing? If you're like me, I have to be honest, after I got over how gorgeous the cover was, and there is some actual meaning behind the leopards that are all over this particular imprint of the book, which is a first edition signed special from Waterstones, and you may well see these everywhere if you're in the UK. I just can't stop looking at mine. If you have, like I do, an interest in ancient history, I studied Greek and Roman mythology and the rise and fall of the Roman Empire at university until I ran out of funds. But we don't need to go there. You will sink into this book and think you've come home. She is stunning to look at, but the story within is of love, of hate, war, discovery, growth, battles for power, and conspiracy. Spies wander the halls of the palace and you just get pulled in. And I have to be honest, when I first picked this up, it's our book club read for July through August, and we haven't even had our July meeting yet. So when we're talking about Before the Coffee Gets Cold, which is in my video for June wrap-ups. But anyway, we haven't even had the meeting where most of the group is going to be starting this book. And my copy arrived on Tuesday. I got home to find it was there on my doorstep with another couple of books, one of which I wasn't even expecting. And I managed to resist it for one night. And then I was sitting down on Wednesday evening and I thought, I need to find another book to read because I've just finished Agatha Christie, I believe, Appointment with Death. Yes, Appointment with Death. I just finished Appointment with Death. I'd watched the TV David Suchet episode in the larger Poirot series, and I thought I need to find something else to watch, or I need to read. And this book was just staring at me from my coffee table, where I'd left it with Costanza, which is on my shelf over there. I'm not going to go and pick it up because I will have to maneuver so much stuff. With Costanza and with another, I believe it's another Agatha Raisin, the most recent one, Dead on Target. So I thought, looking at those books, I thought I could read Costanza, which is another historical fiction novel based in historical fact, inspired by the life of Costanza, the woman who inspired many of Bernini's sculptures. And I love Bernini. One of the main reasons I wanted to go to Rome was so I could see Bernini's Daphne and Apollo, and the Hades and Persephone, or actually Jupiter and Proserpina as it's titled, because it's in Roman mythology rather than Greek. And I thought I could read that. No, I really want to read Babylonia. So I just picked it up and started reading. And this was about 10:15, 10:30. So it was not exactly early. And I thought I could go to bed now. And it was coming up for midnight. I had work in the morning, and I start work at 8. So it's not exactly I can lie in until 8:30 and rush to my desk, because I have a really long commute, literally bedroom to studio. But I thought, I don't want to put it down. And I'd reached page 205. So I was just over halfway through. Incredible things had occurred. And all I wanted to do was finish the book. And if I hadn't had work the next morning, I probably would have just carried on reading through, because it absorbed me. It starts with setting the scene. We have Semiramis's mother holding Semiramis. So her mother is called, and I've got to get the pronunciation of this right, Derceto, which is an unusual name, and it is tied in with mythology, and she's believed to be a water goddess, and in the myths, obviously not in history, because but she is being held by her mother, and her mother goes to see Semiramis's father, who is unnamed throughout the entire book and barely mentioned, to be fair. He is a focus of the beginning of the book, because that is setting the scene for Semiramis's life and how she is perceived by people in the village of Mari, where she ends up living with an adoptive father. But anyway, we'll skip to that bit in a moment. It starts with Semiramis's mother, Derceto. I've written the pronunciation down because I don't want to get it wrong. It starts with her going to visit the man who impregnated her and then abandoned her, and she stabs him. So already Semiramis's life is shrouded in violence. Her mother killed her father, and then she drowned herself and left her daughter on a rock by the river in which she drowned herself. Semiramis is found by the chief shepherd, I suppose, of the town of Mari, called Simus. Simus. She is found by him and brought back into his home, where she is treated as a commodity, a servant. She is beaten, she is tortured, and she is beaten rather viciously by her adoptive father, who has no respect, quite obviously, for women. He also has a son called Ammon, and Ammon tries to protect Semiramis from a lot of his father's violence, but there's only so far he can help her, because she won't help herself. She is a thief. Not in a, sounds awful. She's not a thief in a, I'm going to hurt people and take things that they can't afford to lose. She takes from the rich, kind of like Robin Hood, but her cause is she wants to escape from the life that she's in, because she sees her destiny as being something more. So on this particular evening where we first encounter Semiramis as an adult, she encounters a general who is representing Ninus, and Assur's soldiers kill him, or they shoot arrows at him, and by the time Semiramis reaches him, he is already dying, but she tries to help him anyway. And in exchange for his gold rings, which show his wealth, she says she will help him escape. Unfortunately for him, he is killed very, very quickly, and then he is strung up in the center of the town, and she shows a moment of identification with him, of identifying with his situation, when she cleans his body as he is strung up in the village, already dead. And that is a moment where you get to really see into who Semiramis is. She is a victim of circumstance, completely outside of her control. She is tormented verbally and physically by her father. Her brother tries to protect her, and the people of the village view her as unclean because of the stories around her mother, because obviously the story of a woman who kills her husband, kills a man who left her in the family way and abandoned her to a damaged reputation, and then took it out on him and then left her daughter behind, is not considered a good omen, or doesn't augur well for the child. Because, of course, the sins of the father are forever visited upon the child, and in this case it's the sins of the mother are forever visited upon her daughter. When King Ninus's advisor, Onus, and his soldiers arrive in Mari, they are after Assur is killed by Ninus. I keep on having to look at names. I'm so apologising. When Ninus kills his brother, because he is informed that his brother killed his father, or their father, Ninus sends his advisor, his general, Onus, to the town of Mari to gauge how loyal they are to him and his cause. And it is on this first night of their arrival that Semiramis goes and is discovered by her adoptive father having stolen goods under her bed, under her bed mat, and he severely beats her. And this is a moment that it just stuck in my mind all the way through the book. The devastation she must feel. She's never been accepted anywhere. And the man who is supposed to care for her, he sees her as a commodity to be sold in order to boost his reputation. So he is going to marry her off to somebody. She has no say in who that is going to be. And no doubt she's dreading the thought of being stuck in this village with a man under her father's thumb for the rest of her life. So when her father catches her with these stolen wares and beats her almost to death, she seeks help from Onus. She turns up in his tent, and seeing something of himself in her, because he didn't have the most wonderful upbringing himself, seeing something of himself in her, he takes her under his wing and proposes marriage. At the same time as she is accused, she's telling him, my father stole gold from the general that came here, that was killed here. My father stole his rings. And of course the evidence is under her father's mat because he stole it from her. So her father gets the punishment that Semiramis was probably destined to have. This shows her manipulative, deceitful side. So we're seeing every facet of this woman's character and what she's been forced to become because of her circumstances. She wouldn't have had to steal for freedom had her father not beaten her, had the village not tormented and tortured her for the events surrounding her birth and the things that her mother had done in order to protect her daughter. So you get this very well-rounded character who's exquisitely crafted. That's one thing I have to say. Casati's writing really pulled me in, and I couldn't stop thinking. I still can't stop thinking about Clytemnestra. It has a spot in my brain, and it is forever going to be repeating in my brain. There are some beautiful lines in this. There is poetry. We get excerpts from Gilgamesh, which is the story in which a lot of Semiramis's original tale is told. And you've got myths entwined in this with obviously Gilgamesh, but you've also got Ishtar, and it is so beautifully done. It's incredibly rich story. I can't stress enough how rich this book is. Yes, Semiramis does come across, after she is freed from the burden of being her adopted father's daughter and everything, the risks that go with that, namely being forced to marry someone for her father's own advancement, not to her benefit at all. When she is with Onis in his palace, she becomes close to one of her slaves called Ribat, who teaches her how to read, because being a daughter and being of lowly position in the family household, she has never been given any skills apart from to serve at the hearth of a man, which is kind of where women were in that particular day and age. Hence Semiramis's story being so unique. And she is taught by her slave to read, and they develop a strong bond, because she understands where he came from. She understands a life of hardship and a life of toil. And he admits to the other servants that she gets him, and he considers her a friend. And I believe to a degree she considers him to be one as well, because there's a certain scene at the very end of the book that really does indicate the disappointment and devastation she feels when certain things change in their relationship. Living with Onis, she is elevated to a new position, but she still keeps on pushing because she wants more. There are prophecies made in which she is considered to be a threat to the throne, and Ninus's mother takes an instant dislike to her. She is someone who, like Semiramis, became very powerful. She was the woman behind the throne, and she married two kings. Not only was she married to Ninus's father, but she was married to his grandfather before him. And there are various different versions of her story, and I will link a couple because they are fascinating. It would be lovely to read her story after this, because I think that Nysat is actually possibly more manipulative and destructive than Semiramis could ever claim to be. Just she didn't end up being quite as powerful. Well, not visibly as powerful. And Ailu, the man in charge, the captain in charge of Ninus's army, he immediately takes a dislike to Semiramis, seeing her as a threat to his own position, because Semiramis isn't happy with being a woman of leisure. She goes with her husband to learn skills of fighting. She is already a very talented athlete. She is good at climbing, and this was something that the boys in Mari didn't like, because she was athletic, she was strong, because she had to be. And when things start to develop, there is the book says it all, really. There is this relationship between Onis and Ninus, and you discover far more about why that came to be and the pain behind it as the book goes on. I'm not going to give it away, even though it is history and you could probably read about it. Costanza Casati's interpretation is beautiful. It really is so stunningly written. I cannot stress that enough. She has got an incredible talent with words. She really has. I cannot gush about this book enough. It's making me sound very, very fangirly, but I don't care. And when Ninus is initially very resentful of Semiramis, seeing her as a wedge between him and Onis and their relationship, whatever that may be. It's never specifically stated what their relationship is. Well, one of their relationships is stated, but it's not explicitly detailed how far things go, especially when there is a moment where he talks about their kiss, but he mentions nothing more. And he does have a history, Ninus, of relationships with women, whereas Onis he doesn't have relationships so much, and Semiramis is seen as an oddity because of that. But then Ninus sees her as a wedge until an event occurs when he starts to see her for who she has the potential to be. Of course, Nysat, his mother, is still very resentful and very cautious about this woman this interloper who has come into the palace and seems to be bewitching everybody. She has Sassy, a eunuch who is an advisor to Nysa and also a spy. He's a very adept spy in the kingdom. She has him working with her. They collaborate together, and all of these things. The way that she builds her position, and you can see she is getting more powerful because she is ruthless. She is intense, but she is also very clever. You can see that she's put a lot of thought into what she is doing, and the way that Casati has written this, you can almost see the cogs turning in Semiramis's mind as certain things are happening, as certain events take place, and certain people within the palace reveal their colours, including the Prince of Babylon, Marduk, who came into the palace and tries to seduce everyone. He's interested in Semiramis, but only because of her position and the fact that she has Onis's ear. He is interested in an Urtati princess who is being held hostage in the palace, and he's a nasty piece of work. But Semiramis calls him on it straight away. She knows she's not that knight, despite not having had the awareness of a motherly influence and that beware, boys want what boys want. She isn't oblivious to this, and I like that she's not a classic, not like other girls. She has been made the way she is because of her circumstances. And in this book, we go into them in detail. I wish it had been longer. I got to the end of the book, and all I could think was, I wanted it to be longer. I could have read another 300 pages happily. I mean, seriously, I could have read another 300 pages happily. 400 pages wasn't long enough. I wanted more detail. I wanted to know more. And it's now set me on the path where I'm thinking, should I finish my classics degree? Should I go into more debt just to finish that degree? Because this made me want to know more. So, if you absolutely love, and I mean love, history, if you love ancient history, especially if you're interested in Babylon and you're interested in the tale of Gilgamesh, if you love mythology and the way that it can weave into tales of history and fact, I would 100% recommend Babylonia. But to be honest, if you don't like that sort of stuff, I'd still recommend it anyway. I'm looking forward to finding out what my friends in book club think about it. And I think I might go back at some point in the very near future and reread Clytemnestra as well, because I just want to read more. And this book was amazing. Her characters are cruel, heartbreaking, cold-blooded, ambitious, and so brilliantly written. So yeah, pick up this book. You won't regret it. I promise. Now, if you want to find out more about Clytemnestra and why it was my top read of 2023, I do have a video which I will link at some point above here. And if you are interested in finding out more about the other types of book I read, either take a trip down memory lane with my podcast episodes, or have a look at some of the other videos I've got. And of course, please don't forget, like, comment and subscribe. And yeah, I'm sounding like James May. I don't like doing that, but please do like, comment and subscribe. I would love to hear from you. And I really want to hear if you've read Babylonia or it's on your TBR. What do you think about it? Why did you buy it? Is this a period of history that you are interested in? Do you want to learn more? Do you want to set up a group that just talks about ancient history, mythological stories and everything else? Because I really need one. In the meantime, bye.